All right, so I'm old now. Don't know if you heard, but well, anyways, I came to this realization. Well, first, it happened when I turned 20 a few months ago, um, and then I took a close analysis of what I enjoy in my leisure time. So let me describe to you the ideal leisure activities for myself, and then you can tell me, do I sound like a 20-year-old or like an elderly gentleman? So my ideal afternoon, right? I'm sitting on the back porch, just sitting there. Maybe another person, maybe a few other people, but probably not. I sit there, I listen to country music, probably old country music, and then if I'm there with somebody, I tell them about how bad new popular country music is. Okay. Um, I like to, get those bottles of Cokes, right? The Mexican Cokes. Crack one of those open, have one of them. Sounds like a good evening. And I just sit there, probably for hours. Sounds like a good time. And preferably, I'm in bed by 10. All right. I have no idea how I used to stay up late. I hate staying up late. Why would anybody want to do that? You just get so tired. And waking up early is amazing. Let's be real here. But I think the biggest example that showed me that I was old was I found myself defending an old way and attacking a new way. What do I mean by that? I'll tell you. So maybe a few weeks back, I go and I'm listening to music and I'm using old-fashioned cable headphones, right? Funny to say that that's old-fashioned, but right, that's where we're at in society. And I drop my phone, but guess what? It doesn't hit the ground. Why? Because the cable stayed connected. It caught it. I don't know. Maybe scratched the inside of my ears from the stress from the headphones. I don't know, but it was worth it. And then I sat there with a big smile on my face thinking, those kids with them AirPods, they'd never even imagine this. Their phone would be cracked just like that. And here I am with my cable headphones with a non-cracked screen. So, anyways, there you have it. I'm old, so Trevor is not really how you call me anymore. Mr. Mauk, preferably. Just kidding. Please don't call me that. Um, anyways, that's been on my mind since I've done a podcast, and I just needed to tell you that. So speaking of, going to try to be getting into podcasting, or doing the podcast, get back into it. There were like so many reasons that just kept coming up as to why I couldn't do it, because there were podcasts that I wanted to make, and then just things would randomly come up, and I wanted to do this a few weeks ago, and for instance, my computer just totally like went out the back door. It was terrible, and it was just like that since I've done podcasts. So, anyways, we're getting back to it. I'm gonna try to do these when I can. Whenever I think of something interesting, I'll drop a podcast for you. Also going to be trying to do it on a topic that has really nothing to do with what's going on today. The world is, frankly, it's burning. And so if you're searching for a podcast to listen to while you're cleaning or while you're driving that has nothing to do with the cesspool that is the state of our country and world we're living in right now, this podcast may be your go-to. So case in point, I don't know if you're ready. Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. Hold on. I'm going to get a drink of water first. I don't think you're ready. That's right. Is God really just aliens? Okay? I got a Bigfoot shirt on. I got alien garb, okay? And we're going to get into some deep conspiracy theories. Logic and reason will probably go out the window, so you have been forewarned. All right, so let me get ready for this. And if you're not watching the YouTube version, maybe go click over there, because as you will see, I'm getting into the full, I don't know, I'm just going all out, okay? How my sunglasses look. You never want to put these on straight forward. You want to, put them on at an angle, make your eyes look absolutely ridiculously. It's not like this, right? That's too straightforward. We're going to go like that, all right? We got our NASA hat on. If the aliens hear me while they're talking, or while I'm talking, I got some tinfoil on the old cap. Pretty sure you don't put it on the cranium. That's what all the alien people say. All right. That was. If you don't understand that reference, then come on now. That's. You are entering a world that of absence of sound. I don't know. I forgot what he says. He changes it up sometimes. So, the question that everyone is wondering about is God really just aliens? Okay. So, where I'm coming at with this angle is many people like to say that the origins of humanity actually started with aliens as our creators, and not God. Okay. But then I know exactly what you're thinking. Trevor, I don't even believe in aliens. All right? How can we even ask this question? You're presupposing aliens. See, there's some sound logic there. Some of it here. Okay? Here's the deal. I'm going to give you some things that will blow your mind. Okay? When you're done with this, hit pause and really think about what I'm saying. Okay? All right. Do aliens exist? Look, just to be clear at the outset, I'm not saying, or going through the evidence, I'm not saying that aliens do exist, but they exist. Okay, so the New York Times, okay, just kind of recently, I think this was from a couple months ago. I'm reading from an article they have. I'll link it in the description below. It's really hard to read with these swaggy sunglasses on. Eric W. Davis, an astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor and then a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program since 2007, said that in some cases, examination of the materials had so far failed to determine their source and led him to conclude, quote, "We couldn't make it ourselves." But just wait, it gets better. Mr. Davis, who now works for Aerospace Corporation, a defense contractor, said he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as this past March, about retrievals from, are you ready for this? Get strapped in, okay? And I quote, "off-world vehicles not made on this earth. Signed, sealed, delivered, aliens exist. Proven fact." You heard it here, folks. Actually, you heard it from the New York Times. I just read it. That's really all that happened. Okay? So, here's something else. All right? Maybe you're saying, Trevor, the New York Times, it's fake news. I can understand that. Okay? Maybe you're saying, astrophysicist, I don't know, smashtrophysicist. Okay? What does he have to say about all this? Like, how is he credible? Okay? All right. I see you're a smashtrophysicist, and I will raise you UFO videos. Just in April, UFO videos leaked from the Pentagon. I will link the description in below. Hit pause. Click on these videos. Videos that specifically came from the United States government of unidentified flying objects. Okay? Now, you say, Trevor, I don't know, those videos, they sound doctored. Not sound, but look doctored. To which I would reply, maybe. Frankly, I'm not that well versed in videography and things of that nature. But I see that, and I will raise you a Commander David Fravor. That's what I meant to say. So you don't know who this guy is? Great, because I do, and I'm about to tell you. This guy was one of the pilots tracking one of the UFOs in the video that you just saw, in one of the videos that you just saw. guess what? He goes onto the Joe Rogan podcast, spills the beans, and he tells all. Okay? This guy, I mean, take it from the guy who's wearing a tinfoil covering on his NASA hat with a Bigfoot shirt on. This guy really had his head set straight on his shoulders. All right, this guy was straight of the line. Okay, I'm actually being serious about it. This guy was actually a pretty cool dude. I mean, I'd like to sit on the back porch with him and talk about stuff. It seemed like a good time. Anyways, he goes on Joe Rogan. Very straight edge dude. And yeah, he said there's really no aircraft that could be performing what they captured on these videos. Just absolutely incredible feats of aeronautics. Okay. Seemingly impossible feats of aeronautics. And, you know, this guy was a commander in the... Oh, gosh. Now I'm going to mess it up. All right, he's in the military. I'll just go with that. Safer, okay? He's a commander in the military. Okay, he's flying a jet, so he has a lot trusted to him, all right? That's millions of dollars trusted to him. Okay, so he's not going to sit there and lie to you, okay? Very credible source. All right. Now you wonder, well, how's that even possible? Aircraft that's not of this aircraft that quote from the New York Times article says was not made of this world. How could it fly in these ways? Awesome, because I got you there. Go on the Joe Rogan podcast and listen to Bob Lazar. Okay, this guy worked at, guess what? You guessed it, Area 51. All right? How does that sound? Sounds great. Worked at Area 51 and saw these alien spacecrafts. Okay? And he was able to kind of deconstruct the technology as best they could. They really gave it their best shot. And he started saying that there was like this anti-gravity or gravity generator thing. And he started saying that there was this element that was, it was in the 1 teens, right? The 100 teens. You know, those things are really like beyond our understanding. And they only exist like for fractions of a second in particle accelerators, but he said this one was stable in this aircraft, and it was how these aircrafts were flying around, and he had seen these things, and he was also speaking about technology that has since come up today. All right, that's incredible, right? I mean, technology they were able to reverse engineer this technology and then bless greater humanity with it. And he had mentioned it a long time ago. Okay? Maybe the guy's a lunatic. So you go to the Joe Rogan podcast again with George Knapp, the reporter who covered this. This guy is out of Las Vegas, and he's covering this story. Seems very credible, very well-to-do, had good intentions. He wasn't a lunatic of any kind, and really, really good interview there. So go check out those interviews, okay? Real good stuff. Now, personally, I've seen some things that are quite weird. All right, I live out in the middle of a desert, okay? There's one instance where I saw something very strange. You may say a light that went from one place to another in time that just doesn't make sense. Growing up, I have encountered and met guys who are wise. They're in their wisest years of their age, and they tell you stories about what they've seen. And when you sit in the presence of these guys, you get the overwhelming sense that they're telling the truth. And then when you get to know these guys, you start thinking, these guys don't really shoot the bull that often. And when they do, you know it. And this is not one of those times. So, some of these stories have been incredible, have defied explanation. I'll give you a fun little story. We knew a guy, or I know, my dad knows a guy. There you go. All right, better. My dad knows a guy whose brother was out in this location, unidentified location, or I should say classified location. And he described what they had saw as the ship coming down onto a mountain, and they were out in the middle of the desert. They see the ship coming down. There's a light, comes off the mountain, comes down. Oh, you'd think I'd learned to silence my phone by now. Okay, we'll throw that over there. So the alien, this UFO is coming down off the mountain, shining a light, and approaches, and these little beings started coming out and dancing all over the bushes. That's the best way he could describe it. And then this one big being came out and collected them all up. And there was this mist that overcame their car that they were stuck, that they went in, right? They had their shotgun loaded, but this mist came over them, completely calmed them down. And then the story goes that they were abducted. Very interesting. So, what was most interesting about this story, is that the guy and the girlfriend he was with, they go to Washington, D.C., and they get put under hypnosis, and they tell the exact same story, okay? And what's even more interesting is apparently folks who know these two, and some of them are close, started having strange incidences occurring that defy explanation. I hope that didn't. I don't think that really breached our privacy. I didn't really say anything, but of identification of who these people are. They do have a book. I believe it's called The Searchers. I haven't necessarily read it, but I mean, I know a guy, my dad, who knows the guy whose family it happened to. So I'm going to trust that. So all of this evidence that, I mean, like I said, I'm not really going to sit here and tell you that aliens exist. I'm just going to sit here and say that they do, okay? So now comes this, well, first of all, let's think about it. For as vast as the universe is, it seems that aliens, right, alien life form, at least life form, exists, some sort of life. Now, intelligent life, maybe. The universe is that vast, perhaps. Okay, that's possible. So I think just given the vastness of space, odds are that there's another place out there that has some sort of intelligent life. Now, are they coming to this Earth? I'm not sure. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Except for the evidence that I just gave to you. LOL. Okay. So, is God really just aliens? Well, here's how this theory goes, okay? Take, for example, the show Ancient Aliens. Very entertaining show to watch. It kind of has hearkened to this idea that aliens have sort of planted human beings here. They kind of gave us the magic touch to give us consciousness. And some evidence that they cite for this is there's different ancient societies that have ancient societies throughout the world that have very similar hieroglyphics and building structures, and their sort of religious views and their whole spiritual system. A lot of it is very similar. Okay, and most of it has to do with saying the gods coming from above, describing the gods, describing how they came in balls of fire, right? Maybe that's a spacecraft. Flashing lights, war of the gods in the sky, things like that. This is stuff that you'd normally see on that show, Ancient Aliens, stuff that you would normally hear about. And as someone who, like, when I would watch that show at the time, I was very scientific and very into astrophysics and whatnot, and so I would be like very skeptical. But even as being very skeptical, I do have to admit that some of the commonalities across different cultures was, I have to say, it's like, okay, that's actually kind of hard to explain. Like that, those similarities seem like suspicious at this point. And then also, I should say that I think there is another explanation for the commonalities, but it's actually not very accepted in mainstream science. If you want to learn more about this, I would recommend you go to the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, where he interviews a guy named Graham Hancock. And Graham Hancock starts to kind of show that the modern form of archaeology and no, it's not paleontology, but just archaeology, ancient anthropology, is actually kind of misfounded. There's a lot of assumptions that are not actually, or there's a lot of evidence that goes against accepted archaeology about, the origins of humans, the origins of human civilizations. And if you listen to that podcast, what's really interesting is he actually starts to scratch the surface on an explanation for why you see certain commonalities amongst ancient peoples. So it is really fascinating. I mean, just totally separate from the whole topic of aliens. I'd recommend you go listen to it. It's very, very cool. I will say, if you're a young Earth creationist, your blood may boil, because he's definitely showing science that does not complement that at all. So you have had your warning. But so, anyways, the ancient aliens or ancient astronaut theorists suggest that humans were planted here by aliens, and some theories are saying, we're here to work for the gods or aliens. We're here to mine gold for them. That's why we love gold so much. Or, this was just kind of a project that the aliens had set out on. Okay, all right. Well, what's also interesting is I've heard on these shows, they'll bring up Old Testament references. They like to use like old mythologies, talk about how maybe the mythologies are describing aliens, and then they also go for the Bible. So something they like to cite is the sons of God in the Old Testament, specifically Genesis chapter 6, I believe, right, where it's talking about the Nephilim and the sons of God. Like, who were these, quote, sons of God? And then they go into like, oh, well, if you read the story, the sons of God come down and they reproduce with humans on earth, and God, kind of casts them out and things like that. And then they say, okay, it must be aliens. Because these ancient people were so primitive that that's the only way that they could describe it. Right. I think that's kind of ignorant, but I don't know. Something that I'm really not a fan of is that they really don't sit there and try to falsify their theories, because if they did, and maybe if they reached out to, I don't know, an Old Testament scholar, a scholar of Hebrew, these theories would get shut down pretty quickly, because, like, for example, with the Sons of God case, right, there's not really one agreed meaning definition of what the Sons of God or Nephilim were. I think the most common explanation I hear, and the one to me it sounds the most compelling, is that they were some sort of spiritual beings, And that was how ancient Jews and even people in the early church had described them. There's a few passages in, I believe, 2 Peter that kind of touch on that. Also, something that's kind of interesting is they'll bring up Ezekiel chapter 1. I'll read some of that to you. Got to take my alien glasses off and put my readers on. See, I'm old, right? I got to put my readers on. Wow, I'm seeing myself in the video for the first time. This hat looks pretty ridiculous. It fits poorly, so NASA Museum, make better hats, okay? Ezekiel 1, starting in verse 4. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out from the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually. And the midst of the fire, as it were, gleaming metal. In the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had human likeness, right? Wow, aliens right there. They had human likeness, but each had 4 faces. What? And each of them had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like sole of a calf's foot. What the heck? What is Ezekiel describing here, man? And then it talks about the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side, and the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and the 4 had a face of an eagle. I'm skipping around a little bit. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire. Like the appearance of torches moving to and fro among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Here's something interesting that I've heard from, like, specifically referenced in the show Ancient Aliens, verse 15. Now as I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the 4 of them. As for the appearance of the wheels and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl, and the 4 had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being as it were a wheel within a wheel. And then this is when boom, flying saucer, okay? You have just heard Ezekiel describe a flying saucer, except you didn't. Why? Because this is exactly the same kind of language that is used throughout the entire Old Testament to describe appearances of angelic beings, specifically languages, or specifically the kind of language you hear from Old Testament prophets. Like, for example, look at, say, Isaiah 6, right? This is, kind of very similar descriptions of angelic spiritual beings, and also the book of Daniel. I think, man, there's another one. I can't remember. Anyways, even the Revelation to John, that is the book of Revelation, you'll find in the back of your Bibles. John actually describes the beings the same way. Now, is he using the language that Ezekiel and Daniel used to describe the spiritual beings that they saw? I think so. I think there's really good reason to believe that. Actually, it's not good reason to believe. It's pretty much evident that John is directly quoting from Old Testament prophecies in the book of Revelation. But nonetheless, he saw all that stuff too. And you got to think about it. We're feeble earthly minds, and to try or to see what is actually going on, in the heavens, in the spiritual realm, and then to have to describe that in human language is really difficult. And this is where I may be wrong, but I read through the book of Revelation just recently, and I thought I saw something where John actually talks about that, like where he's talking about, like he's describing it as best he can. Then again, I did read through Daniel recently too. Maybe it was in Daniel. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry about that. But I think you get the point. So the whole idea that aliens planted us based off of mythologies, based off of commonalities between almost even pre-ancient civilizations, and then based off of what the Bible has to say. I think it's really far-fetched. I don't even think they should use the Bible. I think it's just really poor scholarship. Kind of defeats their whole claim, because if they're not even going to spend an ounce of a second going in to see what the people who devote their whole lives to studying these scriptures say about it, like, what kind of people are we dealing with? So, yeah. But anyways, good evidence that aliens still exist. I just went through all of that for you. So, did aliens plant us here, though? You know, some theories that I've heard is, or like another theory that I heard is that, like, we actually came from Mars and we were destroying Mars, excuse me, and we came here and terraformed the Earth, and then, like, these stories that we hear, the Old Testament and other mythologies and ideas of aliens are remnants of contact we had with other civilizations, because if we were able to get out of a planet, come to a new one, and terraform it, then we would have the capability to be in contact with extraterrestrials. I don't know. I really don't buy it, but it's very entertaining to think about. So let's think about this. Maybe kind of wrap it up with some reason here, okay? So if aliens planted us here, it actually just puts the question here. Let me back up a little bit. If you're saying, our origin of consciousness, what makes us human actually comes from aliens, it still doesn't really do much in disproving God. So a lot of people will like to say, I don't believe in God because, I don't know if a lot of people say this, but I've heard this. You know what? Just humor me, all right? This is a fun, entertaining podcast, okay? Some folks, a number of folks, like to say that, they don't really believe in God, but then they'll believe a theory about, or they like to believe a theory about aliens planting us here. Okay, look, here's the deal. So this really just doesn't explain much, because, okay, let's say aliens did put us here. Okay, so who created the aliens? It can't just be an infinite regress of alien civilizations planting other alien civilizations. That's just infinite, doesn't work. So there has to be like a first alien that has existed outside of time and has the capability to create something as complex as consciousness. So it would seem to suggest that it has to be higher than the form of consciousness that we would be familiar with, or something that we could conceive of. And by many definitions, this sounds exactly like God. So it just kind of puts the question back, like who created aliens? Okay. So also, what's kind of interesting is, if anyone likes to come up with this theory, they themselves already believe in a form of design then by default. So they recognize that human beings are just so kind of weird that they needed some design to come in from the outside. Well, they would say it's the aliens, and then if they don't believe in God, but then it's like, okay, what's the real plausibility that aliens did it? Seems very low. But then they're like, okay, they could hop on board with a design argument easily, right? And then, but what we would say as God, that actually seems way more plausible than aliens. So, yeah. And also, like, if you're a Christian and believe this, I would say that it's probably wrong, because in Genesis chapter 2, it says that God breathed the breath of life into us. So it was God that, take it for what it is, but it sounds like that's what kind of made man conscious. It was that breath of life that God gave to us. So the Bible says that it's God who gave us that, not aliens. It didn't say God had his helpers or he used his little minions to flip the switch. So, is God really just aliens? No. Okay, probably not. Maybe. No, I'm kidding. No, it's not. Yeah, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to address this because think about this. If you're at a social event and you guys are really getting down to the deeper questions of life, the guy who comes up with the theory of aliens planted us here, and I've heard some of these accounts, they get pretty detailed and they think about things that explains like, oh yeah, that explains whatever I see right here perfectly. Those folks tend to get the most attention, and I mean they're really fun to think about. They're kind of like they really stretch your imagination, and it's like, man, that would be really cool if it was like that. Okay, I'm sorry, but it's probably not. But do aliens exist? Probably, okay, because of the evidence I stated earlier. All right. Personal testimony, Bob Lazar, stories around him, the videos from the Pentagon, and an astrophysicist who said off-world vehicles not made on this earth. Okay, it doesn't get any simpler than that. Okay, now here's my issue. It's actually incredibly hard to get from wherever the nearest possibility of life, intelligent life existing on a planet, from here, the distance is like, I mean, pun intended, astronomical. It's ridiculous. And it would take light years. That's like, what is that? Like millions of years to get here. Is that? I don't know. Long time, very long times. And so it seems very unlikely that these aliens have, come up with that technology to come over here and then like to do what though? Like they just fly around, they flash their lights here and there. But I mean, if you think about it, if they have the power to get over here through, I don't know, black holes or no, sorry, wormholes, something like that. Maybe their whole reason for being here and noodling around like kind of goes beyond our comprehension a little bit, or is for a reason that's completely foreign to us. I don't really know. Kind of an entertaining thought. So let's keep that in mind. But you know what makes me the most excited about the possibility, or may I say convincing evidence that aliens exist? That's right. Intergalactic missions. All right. Who's jumping on the spaceship with me to go evangelize to the aliens? That'd be awesome. It'd be so fun. Have to learn their language. I don't know. You have to insert like a motherboard into your voice box to be able to communicate with these people, and then maybe even like a Bluetooth/Wi-Fi adapter. And then like saying John 3:16 just sounds like bop, right there. All right, I just told them, for God so loved the world. All right, and then good biblical interpretation would say God so loved your world, this world, the universe. Okay. Actually, don't quote me on that, please don't. But I will say this, Colossians 1:16, for by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. So if aliens exist, they were created for Christ, through Christ. Okay, he's the Word. And intergalactic missions, intergalactic evangelism sounds absolutely awesome. Okay, sounds completely scary. I probably would never do it, but it sounds awesome. I like to think that it could happen. So yeah, there we go. Maybe that all that is to say that I just really want to go on mission to save some aliens. I would be curious to communicate with them to see if they had like a Messiah figure come down at any point. Like how weird, like, would that even be theologic? Could you even make a theological consistent statement to say that the Messiah came on earth to save us of our sins, but then like did basically what would be the same thing in a way that they could understand on their earth? Well, we could kind of say that because of the moral law, they would probably adhere to the same moral law. That's kind of interesting, right? And then, so because of that moral law, love would be paramount. And love is self-sacrificing. So, we'd have to look for a Messiah figure that, did something that was self-sacrificing at a like extreme level, such as the case of the crucifixion of Christ, and then performed things that even these aliens with their technology couldn't do. I don't know. Raised from the dead sounds like a good start. Yeah, because that's actually something I just thought about, was like they would adhere to the same moral law, right? Because if they're conscious beings, it was God who would create them in the same image. So they would value pretty much the same things as us. But that's also really scary, because that means they also have the propensity of sin at the same degree that we do. But then their technology would make it like make them incredibly dangerous. Like their power, their technological power, exacerbates their sin, right? It's like this corrupting agent that their technology affords them. All right, I've talked for a long time about aliens. I have Bigfoot on my shirt. I didn't even get to talk about Bigfoot. Does Bigfoot even exist? Look, I mean, I'm not going to say that Bigfoot exists. I think I heard somewhere that the guy who came up with the story of Bigfoot said that he just came up with it. It was just a story. It was just fake. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Bigfoot exists. But, he exists. There's far too much evidence. He does. So, you've just had a taste of a podcast that has nothing to do with the flames going on in our world. I hope you found it entertaining. Going to be doing more podcasts that are kind of stimulating like this, intellectually stimulating, and it should be a good little sort of distraction, a breath of fresh air. That's my goal. I think folks need it. I need it. This has been great. Where else am I going to wear this tinfoil hat besides, Walmart, the gas station, school, at church? All right, I wear it to those things too. I'm kidding. All right, where am I? All right. So, I don't know. I never watched Star Trek, but I saw that this sign, live long and prosper. I don't know. Prosper for Christ. Okay. Wow. That just took a hard turn. All right, I need to land the plane. This is really bad. Aliens exist. You heard it from here. Send in your questions. I still want to do that. Like, that totally fizzled out, like, within the first, 2 podcasts that I did. So send in your questions, and let's talk about different stuff. Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe that they exist? Do you believe that Bigfoot exists? What's your thoughts on certain biblical passages, or, I don't know, current events? I guess we could talk about it. I don't know. We'll see where the night takes us. So, I bid you all adieu. Enjoy your day.